The law does its best to ensure the safety and stability of society, but in some instances, it can provide vague descriptions that allow individuals to abuse and misinterpret the statutes implemented. It's been exploited through different cases in real life and raised concerns to whether the law is flawed or not. The frequent exploitation has reached modern television shows such as Suits, which demonstrate how the media perceives the law and the untold impact on others in the real world. A case that effectively portrays the use of legal ambiguity in history is the Graham v. Connor case. Graham v. Connor challenges the term reasonable and attempts to gain justice for the cruelty and harm that police officers cause. The strategic attempt to use legal ambiguity and provide a new interpretation exhibits the potential flaws in the law structure. To understand the potential flaws in the structure of legal writing that it indirectly allows, I will reference a research MIT article providing an analysis of the law's convoluted structure, written by Anne Trafton. These sources will help uncover the underlying flaws that can indirectly bring injustice, reducing the stability and social security within society. By providing an in depth analysis, the video intends to spread awareness on the exploitation of legal loopholes and the underlying consequences of ambiguity. Some guiding questions that I will be answering throughout the video is why is the law prone to legal loopholes and what consequences arise from legal ambiguity in real life and TV shows. To provide a basic understanding of what a legal loophole is, essentially, it is a gray area that allows individuals to commit acts that would be considered illegal under other enforced laws. This means that criminals or individuals who have committed specific crimes have the opportunity to use the very law that finds them guilty to argue their case and escape criminal charges or consequences. Lawmakers work to assess the broad circumstances that the law needs to bring justice to. It's hard for lawmakers to be able to target all crimes when words are limited by their definition. To understand legal ambiguity, the structure of the law must be understood as well. Anne Trafton's MIT article, Why Laws Are Written in an Incomprehensible Style, explains that the overall structure of the law is credited to the authoritative writing that lawmakers incorporate. Trafton demonstrates how the law's convoluted writing is attributed to a linguistic aspect called center embedding and indirectly permits legal ambiguity in legal documents. Trafton remarks that the law's convoluted structure is due to lawmakers' efforts to instill an authoritative voice in its drafting. Lawmakers' rhetorical choice to adapt an authoritative voice stems from societal expectation that the law should maintain a professional, strong tone at all times. Through attentive analysis from the efforts of a research group led by MIT professor Edward Gibson, Trafton demonstrates that the legal linguistic complexity of the law is due to the linguistic term called sender embedding. Trafton remarks that analysis revealed that legal documents frequently have long definitions inserted in the middle of sentences, a feature known as sender embedding, essentially explaining that sender embedding elevates the law's writing to an overly complex level, making it much more difficult to comprehend. As a result, the incorporation of sender embedding within legal documents allows more room for error and unknowingly permits potential gray areas that can be exploited by individuals to argue their case. Grafton further reinforces the notion that the structure of the law's writing is credited to center embedding by researching a follow up study. The follow up study tasked 200 non lawyers, English native speakers, to create criminal laws on drunk driving, burglary, arson, and drug trafficking, then building a story about those specific crimes. The follow up study found that many of the individuals created laws that include a linguistic feature, center embedding. The authoritative expectation that the law holds leads many to write complex sentences that can later be susceptible to change and new perspectives. Although center embedding provides more information, the multiple clauses within the sentence affects the precise understanding and ultimately affect the function of the law entirely. The exploitation and effective use of legal ambiguity is effectively portrayed in the television series Suits. Suits is a modern television representation of corporate law in a dramatic and high stakes fashion. The series deals with intense legal implications that force the main protagonists, Mike Ross and Harvey Specter, to find different approaches to win their case. The show follows the unnamed rule that Mike and Harvey must win the case legally at all costs, using various methods such as exploiting vague phrases and terms, also known as ambiguity, and shifting the interpretation of the legal system or document. In the sixth episode of season 2 of the series, Harvey Specter finds his client to have given his company away on a napkin while intoxicated due to drinking excessively and acting irresponsibly. To protect his client, Harvey defends, arguing that the contract is invalid due to his client being severely intoxicated and unable to understand the consequences of his actions. Although the contract follows the minimum requirements to be considered valid, the competence of the party is unclear and can be subject to debate. In this instance, legal ambiguity holds an important role in the validity of the contract. If Harvey's client is seen to be unable to understand the terms of the contract due to intoxication, then there is reason for the contract to be invalid and unenforceable. The circumstances of the contract actively demonstrate how legal ambiguity can help attorneys dispute cases in their favor. In the instance of Harvey's case, he utilizes legal ambiguity in the concept of competent and claims that the intoxication of his client was over the legal limit and was unable to make any reasonable judgment. His evidence to support his claim was obtaining security footage on the night of the incident and providing a count with a live demonstration of how many drinks his client had taken during the course of his stay at the casino. Harvey's actions throughout the scene convey the notion to do everything it takes legally to win a case. His mindset is based on quick analysis and mind games that could potentially help him settle or win the case. In his attempt to strike confusion and doubt within the opposing party, he approaches with confidence and continuously remarks that the napkin won't hold up in court due to the unfamiliar material of the contract. Harvey's choice to confront the opposing party and question the validity of the contract can cause doubt and confusion, which can later help him by throwing off the opposing party's confidence in court. The effective use of ambiguity within the show, using the concept of competence, allowed Harvey to construct a claim that can be argued and presented with factual evidence. In these scenarios, legal ambiguity proves to be a major factor in the understanding and final verdict of the case. This is similarly shown in Graham v. Connor, which demonstrates that ambiguity is a key factor in the final outcome of a case. The case argued that Charlotte police officers used excessive force in detaining the Thorne Graham and violated his Fourth Amendment rights, resulting in devastating injuries for the victim. The Fourth Amendment is placed to ensure the safety from unreasonable searches for citizens, and its own structure demonstrates the strategic and unknown use of ambiguity. The Fourth Amendment's word structure provided a gray area that could be exploited to argue whether the actions against Graham were reasonable or not. Graham v. Connor demonstrates the full extent of legal ambiguity's significance in determining the extent of reasonableness and excessive force. In Graham's first approach of achieving justice, he first references the 14th Amendment, arguing that the Equal Protection Clause was violated as officers were purposely against him due to the color of his skin. The utilization of the 14th Amendment proved to be ineffective and resulted in losses in the federal court and Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. The Fourth Amendment's strict wording and direct rule made it difficult to argue the use of excessive force, as Graham would have to prove this in court. In the Radiolab's podcast, Woody Connett, Graham's attorney, states, and we simply couldn't do that. It's almost an impossible standard to meet, remarking that due to the structure of the 14th Amendment, it was unlikely that Graham and Connett could ever prove the use of excessive force. As a result, Connett transitioned from the 14th Amendment to the Fourth Amendment, demonstrating a new turning point in the case and society as a whole. The integration of the Fourth Amendment proved to be substantial as its structure provided a gray area that was unknown prior to the case. In the case of Graham v. Connor, officers had been tailing Graham, deeming that his actions were unreasonable, acting on personal thought rather than clear evidence. The concept of unreasonableness analyzed whether Graham's actions were bizarre to the police officer and whether his actions caused harm to those around him. The Fourth Amendment's incorporation allowed room for ambiguity and provided new perspectives, such as Justice Marshall, to view the case differently. According to the Radiolab podcast, Justice Marshall in court questions the defendant's lawyers about Graham's actions, and the responses further reinforced that Graham's rights were violated by Charlotte police officers. Justice Marshall's statement reinforced that the officers acted unreasonably and acted on personal judgment rather than questioning the potential possibilities for the behavior of Graham. And as a result, Graham received severe injuries, including a broken foot, cut on his wrist, a bruised forehead, and an injured shoulder. Graham's injuries demonstrate just how much police officers were in control of the situation and acted based on their own personal judgment rather than a protocol or procedural standard. The 14th Amendment inability to regulate police brutality brought forth the Fourth Amendment, which contained a vague description, allowing ambiguity to have a meaningful and lasting effect to this very day. The Fourth Amendment's ability to be open to different perspectives provided a new procedure for officers to follow that overall benefits society as a whole. Although the significant impact of ambiguity within the Fourth Amendment brought societal change that was needed, the case demonstrates how much of a role ambiguity holds, and if done so correctly, it can have profound consequences that can lead to dangers in society. Criminals can exploit these legal loopholes and utilize them to escape and be brought back into society. Graham v. Connor demonstrates the effectiveness of ambiguity by challenging the concept of reasonableness. The concept of reasonableness questions the actions of the officers during the incident and provides a new perspective on what is considered appropriate during unfamiliar situations. The utilization of ambiguity within Graham v. Connor offered a new standard that provides justice that wasn't previously made clear by the law at the time. Similarly to challenging a specific concept, Harvey Specter demonstrates how ambiguity can help individuals construct claims to win a case. Although there is no specific legal principle that actively protects his client's loss, the principle of competence within the law helps construct an argument that the client was unaware of his actions and was prone to making poor decisions. In these scenarios, legal ambiguity proves to be a major factor in the understanding and final verdict of the case. I hope this video helps provide useful information about the exploitation of legal ambiguity and its total effectiveness in modern television and real society. Thank you for watching.